90.7 on the radio dial, WWOZ.org if you're streaming us around the globe. Daria, you have a group called Daria and the Hip Drops. How long have you all been around?
Oh, wow. It has been 12 years, which is really crazy now that I'm saying that out loud. Our first show in New Orleans was actually in 2010 at Carrollton Station.
And you play the steel pans, correct?
I do. And to be more specific, I actually play what we call the double seconds, which are 2 steel pans that I play and sing with my project, Daria and the Hip Drops on.
How did you get to the steel pans?
I actually had it in high school as a class or an elective so people could take chorus or band, like orchestra or steel band. So I started playing when I was about 16. I went to Florida State as well, and they have a college steel band called Moss and Steel, and so I played with them as well.
So there's a bigger world of steel pans than most people realize. You said there's a whole class at college.
Yeah, actually, a couple pan players over here on the West Bank. In Old Kinsale, there's a small group called the Neptune Steel Orchestra. So there is a steel pan community in New Orleans. That's pretty awesome.
That is good to hear and good to know. Something for me to seek out and explore even more. So now, yes. Daria and the Hip Drops, that started out just with you and your partner, right?
Yes, with Graham, bass player, guitar player, producer extraordinaire, player of all stringed instruments. His primary instrument in town has been bass and guitar, but Graham has some pretty solid audio engineering chops, and he did the magic on this new track that we made called Soul of the Summer.
And this was something you did just to celebrate how awesome summer can be?
During the pandemic, of course, depressing time for everybody, or most people, I would think. We were putting music to some Shel Silverstein poems just for fun as a practice tool, because sometimes I also just have a really hard time with my song lyrics. We would just open a book, Where the Sidewalk Ends, the hit, and we would open a page and just put music to it. And it's just a fun thing to do. And honestly, it's like something I've done with like songwriting summer camps for some of my kids I've taught. And it's really great for all ages, to be honest. There's a really amazing poet in town named Todd Cirillo. He's got a book of poetry out. He's got several books of poetry out. I was flipping through and reading one of his poems, and he has this poem called High School Reunion. At the end of his poem, he has a line that says, "I'm just one of the boys of summer who tried to get away." And that really struck me. And I was like, hey, we need to put music to this for fun. And then Graham had this beat on his computer that I heard him going through it, and he was playing guitar over it. And I was just like, that's it. That's what we need to do. We really took the poem High School Reunion by Todd, and of course, with his permission, he kind of reshaped a few lines. And I actually just posted a video about how I did that. That's just a really great way to start songwriting too. If it's something you want to try and haven't done before, just take a poem and just use that as a jumping off point and get some music under it. Because some people, maybe like me, I feel really intimidated writing lyrics, and sometimes I get stuck doing that. This can be a good starting off point, of course, if you have a poem in front of you.
That's a really cool idea. I never thought about that, because when you write a poem or read it out loud, they're so rhythmical. You can hear somebody else's words, and then it can inspire you to find your own words.
We're really happy with the track that came out of it, and what's really cool, and I think speaks to how art works and can transcend in general, is the original poem is a little dark and somber, and how we spun it and it turned out is very upbeat and peppy. And I spoke with Todd, who wrote High School Reunion, and he really loved it, which, meant the world to me, because that would have been terrible if I wrote this song and he was like, this is the worst, please don't do this. So he really liked it, which is great. But what's very cool musically, it speaks to both of those juxtapositions. It speaks to like the somber tone of his original poem and the dog days of summer. And then it also kind of speaks to the beautiful like nostalgia of summer too. That's what I think was a happy marriage between like both of these concepts that came out of it.
That's good, because we also need something as we get to the end of the summer and the heat just really starts to weigh on you. We need some things to pick us up, and this sounds like a perfect remedy for that.
And it's almost like a little bit for everybody. It's just the way you listen to music, it can reflect your own interpretation of it. So like when I originally read his poem, I was like, these things about high school reunions and going back home, all these memories it brings up is really great. And when I talked to him about it, he's like, oh no, that was not intended to sound that happy, but I'm glad that's interesting you came up with it. That's just like the beautiful thing about music and art in general, is how it can affect everybody differently, and that's the power of music to transcend.
Agreed, 100%. If people want to hear this song, where can they find it out in the digital world? Please
make sure you follow us on Spotify. You can give it a heart on there, and it will bookmark it and save it to your library, and also save it to your Spotify playlist. every major streaming platform, Apple Music, iTunes. And for people that just want to stream it, that don't fuss with those subscriptions, we got you covered too. We have the song up on YouTube where you can stream it, SoundCloud and Bandcamp. If you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, I have all these posted in my bio up there. But anywhere you're looking online, Daria and the Hip Drops with an ampersand sign is where you want to find this track.
All right, Daria. Well, thanks so much for taking time out to talk with the OZ listeners and let us know about the new single. I think we should play that. Would that be all right?
Sure. That sounds awesome.
All right. So this is brand new music from Daria and the Hip Drops. This is their brand new single, Soul of the Summer, right here on WWOZ FM New Orleans.